My name is Evie Leona Schamberger. I was born in the Red Springs community, which is in Smith County. My birthday is February the 6th, 1919, which makes me 96, and I'll soon be 97, which is pretty old. I moved to Winona June the 20th, 1937, and I married Thomas Jefferson Schamberger, at which time I became a member of First United Methodist Church. I had been saved some years before that. I can remember when the older men filled the pews of the church for Sunday school class. It was really exciting because there were old people and there were young people. It was just a really general mixture. It wasn't like what it is now. I can remember the dirt floors downstairs, and I also remember a big brown pasteboard box full of history for the Church of Winona. Miss Lolo kept it very close. She watched everything that happened and she recorded it. And they cleaned out we used to have a closet behind the staircase that had a door right at the bottom of the staircase, and that was just our storage place, and that was the only place we had to store stuff. We didn't have the closet all the way across the end. So when they put the closet across the end, I remember seeing the box in the chair, and I assumed that it was thrown away because I never did see it again. Mitchell seems to think it is still somewhere there. I hope it is. They owned a cleaning and pressing shop. Well, that's when the town was flourishing. My best memory of this church is my 3 children. I was a member of this church, and TJ was, and our children, all 3 were christened. Then it was called christened. Now I think it's called baptizing. It's a little bit different worded, but it's the same thing. It's making you promise to raise your children right. But the last one more or less gives your child to God, which you do anyway. And then my children grew up and in the Sunday schools and things, and they became Christians, all 3 of them, long years apart because there were 7 years difference in each one of them. And that stretches out a long way, but they were christened, and then they courted and come to the church, and we had youth, and it was a great thing. They had a lot of youth, and they all joined the church, became Christians. They all got married in the church. They all had their children, and they were christened in the church. So that was a long line of people. We've turned out, we were always young pastors' church. They were in college, all of them, when they came here. So we had them first. And we sort of bossed them around, I guess. But they said if you made it through Winona, you could preach anywhere, and you had it made. So I guess we did sort of put our hands down them, and we raised them like our children. And they were good ones and they were bad, and sometimes I was disappointed and sometimes I wasn't, but we kept up with our church. It didn't matter who they were, we just loved them and went on. And we had some that went on to annual conference, which made it through Winona fine, and turned out big people. My worst memory was when I had a shingles, you know what that is. And I was that one out of 1,000 that it injured all the nerves on the outside. It didn't go away. It kept telling my brain I got shingles. So I had to have a narcotic. And they put me on a strong one. I went to a clinic. And one day in church, the preacher was preaching. He was reading the scriptures, and he says, he was reading about God burying Moses on Mount Nebo. I've been there. I have some tile out of the little picture on the wall. But anyway, we were there, and he read the scripture about God burying Moses, and he didn't read it right because he left the impression that it made it sound like he was kind of doubtful that God buried Moses himself, but he did. And I said, brother, whoever it was, I said, brother, you didn't read that scripture right. And he looked at it and he said, you're right, Miss Schelberger, I didn't. So he went back and read it over, and I glanced up and I saw Mitchell's eyes on me, and I thought, oh, what have I done? The church got quieter than quiet, and I was so embarrassed I didn't know what to do. So we got home from church, and Mitchell said, Mother, you're going to have to get off that stuff. And I said, but Mitchell, I don't hurt anymore. And he said, I can't help it, Mother. You have been higher than a kite ever since you've been on that stuff, and we just can't have it. So I guess I've been doing all kind of strange things that I didn't remember about. Incidentally, I'm back on it now again. But anyway, I'm not hurting as bad. So my biggest hope for this church is that people realize that church is not a game. The older you get, the more you realize that the Bible is actually your handbook for the way you're to live. You're to read it and understand what God is and who He is and what He's supposed to mean in our lives and how we're supposed to live for Him, not for ourselves, and let Him guide us. And so the book says, do not forsake the assembling of Christians. And that means we're supposed to be in church on Sunday morning. And we're going to be held accountable whether we're there or whether we're not. And it's all written down in a book. He must have a big book. Because I've thought of how many people have come and gone. But I've also thought that, you remember the song says, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there? Just because you say you're a Christian and you act like a Christian, and you can act like a Christian and not be a Christian. Unless your spirit is connected with the Spirit of God and you are His, He won't even hear your prayers. You are as a heathen to Him. And you must remember that you've got to get right inside with Him and live with Him, not just on Sunday or one day a week or once in a while. It's 24 hours a day. I love Paul Porter. He was the smartest man we ever had, but he was far above all of us. You could tell he was way up here when we got him First time I ever heard him, I thought, oh, we won't keep him along. He's too good. And sure enough, we didn't. But he was great. And the one I think most of us loved the most was Charles Milliken. He had our teenage children, and he wasn't much older than that himself, but he was a born preacher. And we loved him, and he loved the church, and he loved the children. And they had all kind of choirs and all kind of choruses, and we went to other churches and sang, and it was just a wonderful time when he was here. But it has been I think we remember them all with fondness, and the one we have now I think we're pretty fond of. We'll keep him as long as we can. And I love the church. I've always loved the church. The church to me is my home. And I feel where I am now, I'm going over the last hill. And I'm not afraid of it. Frankly, I'm looking forward to it. And I love everybody in the church and have always. I guess that's just about all I have to say today.
Thank you.